Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, we had the NBA draft, so today we are talking about each team and how the draft affected their prospects, both short term and long term. In this video specifically, we are talking about the New York Knicks, who drafted Obi Toppin with the 8th pick, Emmanuel Quickley with the 25th pick, and Daniel Oturu with the 33rd pick. So, definitely an interesting group that they brought in there. However, before we talk too much about the Knicks, I want to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. Been appreciating the support recently, and I hope to see that continue. Without further ado, let's talk a bit more about the New York Knicks. Toppin is obviously the big name here. Took him with the 8th pick. He's got a lot of offensive potential. He can really shoot it from distance. He's super athletic and is a really good finisher. He's probably had the highest offensive upside of any player left on the board when the Knicks came around. However, on defense, I have a ton of questions because I don't think that he has much ability to guard big guys, and he's a decent rim protector due to his just sheer amount of bounciness and athleticism, but I don't think that he's going to be able to play the 5 in the NBA due to his inability to bang in the post with some of those guys. And I don't think he's going to be able to guard anyone like at the 1 through 3 positions because he has really poor lateral quickness, poor hip mobility, and can't really move his feet to keep guys in front of him. So that leaves him stuck guarding 4s on the defensive end, and I don't think he's going to do especially well guarding them either. So you've got a guy with almost zero defensive mobility, zero defensive flexibility, really cannot switch. And that's a problem in the NBA. You want guys that are versatile defensively and can bring you a lot of different options, and Toppin just simply doesn't do that for you. So for that reason, I think I would have rather seen the Knicks gone with someone like Denny Avdia or Tyrese Halliburton here, but I also think that Toppin was a solid option. Throughout this draft process, I've been significantly lower on Obi Toppin than a lot of people have been. I had him outside of my top 10 going into draft night. I think I had him 12th on my big board. So 8th is obviously a bit of a jump from there. And while I do think it was a little early, I also think that the Knicks are one of the better fits for him because I think that him playing alongside Mitchell Robinson moving forward could be a really solid option. Robinson is a good rim protector and a solid defensive player overall, and if he can improve his fouling tendencies, then I think that there's a chance that this front court really works. However, if Robinson can't make improvements on defense, then they're really going to struggle on that end of the floor. On offense, I'm not too worried because although Robinson is limited and can't do a whole lot outside of the paint, Toppin is a good stretch big man, and he's going to be able to space the floor a bit better than Robinson. So he makes up for Robinson's lack of offensive flexibility. I think that we could probably see some interesting horn sets where you have both of those guys setting screens, and then, well, I guess they don't have a super good pick and roll ball handler, but maybe it's like RJ Barrett, double screen for RJ Barrett, and then he's either finding Mitchell Robinson rolling or Obi Toppin flashing out to the 3-point line where he can either knock down a 3-point shot or create some secondary penetration attacking a closeout. So I do see some options here with Toppin. The thing is, the Knicks have Julius Randle signed to a whopping contract right now, and I don't know if they're going to start Obi over him. Obviously, they should, but they've invested a lot into Randle. They're paying him almost $20 million a year. I'm not sure that you're going to pay a guy that amount of money and bring him off the bench, unless you're the Sacramento Kings with Buddy Hield. So I kind of question how much playing time Obi's going to be able to get, but I'm sure the Knicks will make... I'm sure the Knicks will make it happen, but Kevin Knox was their promising young rookie not too long ago, and then they sat him to get Julius Randle and Bobby Portis more minutes. So who knows what's going to happen. The Knicks are pretty unpredictable. I'm not sure what this means for Kevin Knox's future. He's probably going to have to play a lot more of the three now if he wants to get minutes, since they have Randall and Toppin both at the four spot. And I'd say both of those guys are probably better players than Kevin Knox. You also have to question how much Tom Thibodeau is going to like this choice. Obviously, he probably had to sign off on it, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense due to the emphasis that he puts on defense and Toppin struggles on that end of the floor. Maybe that's a good thing for Obi, though, and he's going to be able to make rapid improvement on the defensive side of the floor. That would definitely be the hope if you're the Knicks. Outside of Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley is a guy that I liked, but I liked him going in the mid to late 30s, not in the mid 20s. I think 25 was way too early for him. And it seems really strange to me because the Knicks had the 27th pick and they traded up to 23. You would be thinking that would be to draft, I guess, Emmanuel Quickley, since that's who they took at 25. But then why did they trade up? I don't think that there was anyone else thinking about taking Quickley in the first round. So that seemed odd to me. They did end up trading back with the Timberwolves and getting the 33rd pick, which they used on Daniel Oturu. But I still think this is a little early on Quickley. They could have used this pick to either take a different point guard that I like better, someone like Trey Jones, who, when we talk about the Spurs, yeah, they got a big steal at 41 or 42, whatever. Oh, no, it was 41. They could have drafted Malachi Flynn, who I really like with the Raptors. They could have drafted, I guess, Peyton Pritchard had this kind of value, but I didn't like Peyton Pritchard all that much. I had him ranked lower than Quickley on my big board, actually. But they also could have targeted a wing. Desmond Bane was still on the board. Robert Woodard was still on the board. They had some options here, and I think that Emmanuel Quickley was probably not the best of those. He is going to do a good job spacing the floor, though, and this team needed to add some shooting, and they accomplished that by adding Emmanuel Quickley and Obi Toppin. They're not going to be the worst shooting team in the NBA next year. Well, actually, they still might be, but at least they have two guys that can stroke it from distance, so I definitely think that that is an area they needed to improve, and they did do that. Daniel Oturu can also shoot it from the big man position. He's a really skilled offensive big man, not much of a passer, but he's a really good finisher and can also space the floor a bit, functioning as a bit of a stretch five who can do well in the pick and roll and pick and pop game. The questions with him come more, well, with that playmaking aspect, but also with his defense. He also is quite turnover prone, and that's not super encouraging, as he had a terrible assist to turnover ratio this past year at Minnesota. But on the defensive end, he really struggles in the pick and roll, doesn't make the right decisions on pick and roll coverage, and ends up giving up more buckets than you would like to see. But I do think that 33 was an okay spot to take him. He has a higher potential ceiling than a lot of the other big men in this draft, and having him as a backup for Mitchell Robinson moving forward could be a decent option for you to have. This team still has some gaps in their roster they need to fill. On the wing, they basically have no players right now besides R.J. Barrett and Kevin Knox. I guess that they do technically, but they all have non-guarantees or player options. So Wayne Ellington, Reggie Bullock, Theo Pinson could all be back, but those guys aren't necessarily pushing the, what's the saying? Pushing the envelope. That's it. At the wing position. So I do think that they could look to improve there. I still think that Fred VanVleet could be an interesting option for them as a guy who could really bring some value to their guard rotation, and I would really target him if I were the Knicks. He's got a chance to step in and be an above-average starting point guard to pair with R.J. Barrett. I think that that's the route they should be looking to go in, and I hope that they do take that route because Fred is a lot of fun to watch, and I would be very excited to see him get more touches on a team that doesn't already have established stars like Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. After that, like I said, wing help is important. Maybe that means bringing back guys like Damian Dotson and Mo Harkless. Maybe it's bringing in some different guys. Derrick Jones Jr. is a young guy that would be an interesting option. I don't love him for the Knicks since he can't really shoot it at from the wing spot, but if you can develop his jump shot due to his ability as a perimeter defensive player and a super athlete in transition, you could be getting a really solid wing there. I would be willing to offer him a sheet somewhere in the range of 4 years for $28 to $35 million. That would make a lot of sense to me. After that, I start struggling to think of, real names that they could go with outside of just like player archetypes. Obviously, 3-and-D wings are in need for this team still. I think a veteran big man could be something they could look to add. They do have Taj Gibson on a team option for next year, but I'm pretty much assuming that they'll decline all those team options and non-guarantees to free up as much cap space as possible for this coming free agency period. They probably did, but I'm unfortunately not a good enough YouTuber to look that up, so I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that's about it I have to talk about. Interesting moves for the Knicks. I don't think that they got much better on draft night today. Adding Obi Toppin was nice, but I don't see how much of an improvement he's going to offer them this season, and I really think that he is kind of a similar player to Julius Randle. So don't love it for the Knicks. I would give them a solid C on this draft because I'm pretty neutral on everything they did. Like that Obi Toppin pick, don't love it, but it's okay. Daniel Oturu, not my favorite guy, but the spot in the draft they got him was all right, so I guess it's fine. Emmanuel Quickly, I like him. They overdrafted him, but I don't know, it was the 25th pick. You take whoever you think is best available, so clearly they did like Quickly. So, yeah, overall, interesting moves by the Knicks. I think next year they're probably still a 25 to 30 win team. Probably going to be picking in the early part of the lottery again next year. And I don't know if the future got all that much brighter here either due to my questions about Toppin and whether or not he's going to end up becoming a starter level player in the NBA because of the defensive struggles. So yeah, bit of a bleak video for the Knicks. I think they could have done much better than they did, and I'm a little disappointed that they didn't because I think they could have had a pretty fun roster, but Obi Toppin's going to be a monster on the offensive end. He's going to be really fun to watch in transition, so this team definitely got more interesting. Leave a comment on what you think about what the Knicks did today. Like I said, I'm pretty neutral about it. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I think that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.